So how long have you been at Prattville, Coach?
This is my third year. I
Third
got
year.
there at the end of at the beginning of the 2022 season. I was hired over the summer.
Okay. Where were you at before that?
Edgewood Academy.
Okay. Okay. Are you a Prattville guy?
I am. I graduated from Prattville. I've coached at Stanhope.
Yeah.
I've actually my first started coaching. I was at McKee Middle, and then moved to Stanhope and Millbrook Middle. Then I went to Edgewood Academy, and actually won their girls' first ever state championship game
Wow. Head coach?
as a head coach.
You got a nice ring somewhere in the house?
Somewhere in the house. We actually just moved into our house back in March, and we're still unpacking boxes.
Well, we're 3 years into this one. I've still got a few too. You know, it's never gonna end. It never
No,
ends.
and
Especially you
and
got kids, it never ends.
and as a coach, you're never home. So it's like, hey, whenever we have a time out, of school, hey, let's unpack a box here and there, and then we're like, nah, let's just go have to eat or something.
Yep, it is a slow, slow burn. I know it. I know it very well. So I'm curious. I always like talking to new coaches that I haven't met before. What's the journey been like to coaching for you? Like where did that start for you?
Well, I was essentially a police officer in Montgomery, Alabama,
Okay.
working in law enforcement. Got put in school enforcement. And that's where I started coaching at McKee. I would take my police uniform off, throw my coaching gear on, and I was the special teams and defensive back coach at McKee.
Wow.
And my wife and I were sitting there. I was like, something about it. I just want to get into coaching. And so she kind of supported me and said, hey, just go back and get your master's and get it in education and then
Yep.
see what happens. And so I got my master's. I ended up leaving before I graduated and was a PE, I want to say a PE aide at Millbrook Middle.
Yeah.
Um, and I was coaching football and baseball. Well, Coach Stokes at Stanhope was like, "Hey, I need a freshman JV basketball coach, and I know you know the game, so come on and help me." So I was like, "Hey, no
Yeah.
problem." They hadn't won a game, I want to say, in like 10 years.
Whoa.
Uh, and so it was probably about my eighth game there. Ended up winning against Lee, and we beat JD. So we won 3 games that year. And then I went to just doing baseball because a good friend of mine, Wes Dunseth, was the coach at that time. And so I take that back. I did football too. Football at the middle school, baseball at the high school. And then I went to Edgewood.
Man, so law, man, I don't know where to go there. So like law enforcement to basketball, like there had to be some basketball in your background
There,
earlier too, right?
there,
Like,
there, there is. I played at Prattville High School. I was
okay.
the last. I was on the last team my senior year to make it to the Final Four in 1998 when they were 6A.
Yeah.
And then I went on and played at Huntington for Buzz Phillips and won a national title with Buzz Phillips as a player.
Wow. Wow. What was the decision to go into law enforcement? Is that just what you studied at Huntington or what?
Uh, I was at Huntington, and being young, I got married at a really, really young age, and ended up
Yeah.
getting a divorce later on in life from that wife, and um, was in the military. I went Navy Reserves, and I did military policing in the Navy. So I was like, well, since I've got the training, I
Yeah.
might as well use it.
Yep.
But part of me still, like, I'd play sports in the Navy. I did, played sports at church, and I was like, I just got to get back into it because that's my passion and it's a calling.
That's it.
So I had to go where my calling was.
I understand that. There was a time where, I mean, I guess I can never say never, but probably in my parents' house, there's probably still those little black and white composition notebooks full of, oh gosh, what's it full of? It's full of Phil Jackson triangle offense. It's full of, as boring as it was, it's full of UCLA high post offense sets and plays. Like I just studied it. It was my favorite thing growing up was No one in my family was really a basketball person. It was football and baseball, and I was too, but basketball has always been my favorite. And it was every single night. I'm watching, whether it be college, pro, I'm studying it. I'm getting online on all these different, websites that have plays and stuff, and, you know, looking at the X's and O's, like online whiteboard type stuff. And then watching that in real time in like a YouTube video, and just didn't continue with it. Once college came, went into journalism instead, but it's needled at me for probably the better part of a couple decades now, really.
Oh, I love like my players laugh at me because I'll sit there, during my planning period, they'll come in my room and they're like, "Hey, coach, what are you doing?" I say, "Well, I'm looking at this. Are we adding another play to what we're doing?" I say, "No, no, no. I'm just looking at things because I like to see, you know, Coach Denton Johnson at Ramsey. He and I talk a
Yeah,
lot, and Coach DJ Black and we talk, and Daryl Free at Hooper Academy. I like to see what other coaches are doing just because
yeah,
I might see something like, hey, I don't have the size, but I've got the speed. I could probably run that. And so I'm like you. It may be the most boring thing to other people. My wife laughs at me because when I get home I also coach flag football at Prattville High School.
okay.
And so I'll get home from a flag football game and my iPad comes out and I'm looking at basketball stuff. She goes, "Just go to bed."
Yeah. That's like I recorded one of these the other day with Tyler Davis at Mountain Brook, and we got to talking about JJ Redick a good bit. Now he's the LA Lakers head coach, which I hate because one, I'm a huge Boston Celtics fan, and he came so close to joining that Joe Mazzulla staff as an assistant. I heard that on one of his podcasts, and I was like, because you didn't take the job, I didn't need to know that you almost took the job and didn't. It just like broke my heart a
Yeah.
little more. And then you take the Lakers job, which but his podcasts that he would do, I don't know if you ever watched them. And then they had that handful or so with LeBron that mind the game. Like he would call people like that sickos. Basketball sickos. They just can't
Yeah.
get enough of it. And man, I hope sometime down the road, if he's allowed to or something, I hope he gets to where he can put that kind of stuff out again, whether he's a head coach or not. Because
Yeah.
I'll just sit there, even though I'm so far removed from when I would study this stuff all the time, that I'll just sit there and watch it and just be mesmerized and think about it and try to apply it. And it just, I don't know, it hasn't left me still.
Yeah. Well, and I'll get on. I'm a member of the Coaching You
Yeah.
website, and I'll get on there and just watch videos. I may not implement anything they do, but I'll sit there and I'll pick up some stuff like how they talk to their players or how they teach something. I'm like, oh man, that just makes sense to me now. So now I'm gonna start teaching it that way. So yeah, it's you're right. Basketball sickos is basically what it boils down to.
Who are some coaches like at the next levels, college, NBA? Like who are some guys you really like to follow?
I really only have two, and it sounds crazy. I lean more on my high school guys that I
Yeah,
coach against or with.
sure.
But there are two guys, Coach Scott Cross at Troy.
Okay.
Love everything that he does. Like I look forward to the summer because I take my guys down there.
Yeah.
Um, I should take that back. I have three because in Rigsby at Troy, when I was coaching girls, I would go down to Troy because of her, just because of how they run their programs and the things that they do. And then everybody's going to say I'm a bandwagon, but Bruce Pearl. I like Bruce Pearl when he was at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Um, I actually was when I was coaching at Stanhope. I went to a Bruce Pearl camp when he was at like his first couple of years at Auburn, and I learned things about Bruce Pearl. I never knew he never played basketball a day in his life.
Yeah.
He was just a student of the game, and I'm like, those type of guys I want to listen to because I've been a student. I've been a player, and then
Yeah.
at certain levels they're like, oh well, players don't make great coaches, but guys that have never played are better at teaching things because they see it in a different way as opposed to me. Well, this is how I did it, so I'm going to teach my guys that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's kind of. I mean, this isn't the best example of that, but I mentioned Coach Davis at Mountain Brook. We're both Celtics guys, so we obviously talked a lot of Celtics. But like Brad Stevens, I forget his title in the president or whatever of the Celtics now. Just the way he came up playing like D3 ball, and then he's like studying to be like a financial advisor or something, gets a GA role, becomes the head coach at Butler, and then just his progression, and then goes to the Celtics as the head coach. Now he's whatever he is, president of basketball ops or something. And you look at his like past experience, and it's not like anything, it's not too unique, but
Yeah.
his rise to where he's at now is beyond unique, given his background. And it's crazy to see guys like that are that smart, that know that much about the game, not just the X's and O's, but the people side of it too. Who works well
Oh,
with who, the relationships, all of that.
yeah. That's some part of my favorite thing. Since I've been at Prattville, they had a lot of disciplinary actions. Like when I first got there, one of my teammates was an assistant coach there, and so I wanted to keep him because I played with him. Where he's like my best friends from high school, and he sat there. He's like, "Look, coach, you're coming into a program that is a dumpster fire because we didn't have the natural basketball athletes. We didn't have just basketball guys. Their IQ wasn't high." He told me of a story that they went and fought. They two basketball players went and got in a fight in the park behind the school. Came back to get on the bus, and the coach was like, "Oh no, you're not getting on the bus." So
Wow.
I was like, well, I don't like to say I'm a players type coach, but they know that, hey, the relationships that we're building. Like I've got guys now, Cam Shanks, who's playing at UAB.
Yeah.
We text weekly. I'm like, hey man, great game. Last Saturday. Hey coach, when can I come shoot in the gym with you guys? I say whenever you're off. I mean, that door is open for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I coached at Edgewood, my first go at Edgewood, I was a student teacher, and Chris George was the coach. And I don't know if you remember a kid by the name of Reggie G. Played at Alabama State, then went to Austin, PA.
Yeah.
And he's actually overseas playing now. And I would text him, and Alex McNeil from Stanhope. So there's guys that I've built those relationships with, and to me, that's the biggest part about it. Because when they leave, if they don't go to the NBA or they don't go to Division I or JUCO or anything, they're going to look back when they're in college just as a student. They're like, man, let me call Coach Fisher and see what he's doing. Maybe he'll let me come run some, get some runs in the gym with his new team.
That's it. That's it. You excited for 7A? What are y'all, Area 5?
Yes. I'm actually more excited this year than I was last year.
Where were y'all at last year?
Last 2 years, we had Enterprise, Dothan, Jag, and Percy Julian. And we finished fourth or fifth both years. But it's funny because Coach Byram at Dothan and Coach Rhett at Enterprise, we still talk. And I was like, I went from a killer area to an area that like we don't know what's going to happen. And
yeah.
But playing Enterprise, who makes it to the state championship game, Dothan makes it to the Final Four. The year before I got there, Enterprise won a state championship. I was like, right. That is a brutal area. Now we have Thompson and Hillcrest and Tuscaloosa County.
Yeah. And you're right. No, who knows what to expect there? I mean, 7A, you guys in Hillcrest are the newcomers, and Thompson and T County have been there, so who knows? We shall see. What is the season outlook like? Give me the rundown on, like who are some guys that you guys have that are kind of standing out and that kind of thing.
We got a new kid. We lost one of our top scorers to Enterprise. Ty Bryant left and went to Enterprise. His mom, got a job down there, and it hurt. But right before he was leaving, I get a phone call from one of the girls' players. Her mom knew a family that was moving back from Germany, And I was
Wow.
like, okay, so they're Air Force. Are they going to go to Prattville? She goes, oh, yeah. She said he played at the junior high. They've already bought a house in Glenbrook, which is right there about near the high school. So he's coming to you. And so they enrolled. He came to tryouts, and his name's Cameron Lewis, and he's a junior. And now I had Lindsey Brown as a point guard at Edgewood, who's now starting on the Alabama volleyball team, who had a very decent basketball IQ. Cameron Lewis's basketball IQ super exceeds hers. Now, scoring wise, they're probably about the same.
Yeah.
If you can compare, boys to girls, he just knows what to do with the basketball. And then I've got my sophomore forward Tanner Eman, that's a starting wide receiver for
Oh
football.
yeah.
So he's the biggest kid I got. And then I got a kid from Stanhope, Demarion Colson, probably the most vocal kid I've ever coached. He will tear you down in a heartbeat if you do wrong, but he is the first one to put his arm around you and pick you right back up to get you where you need to be. And we've never had kids like that. My first 2 years at Prattville, it was more like ISO basketball. Like, oh, I got to get my points to make sure we win. And these guys are, we this past summer we won about 4 or 5 games. The ones that we lost, they were within single digits. And I look back to the last 2 years, like we were never losing games in single digits. So I'm like, okay, I'm a little more comfortable and excited about this group because they're actually playing together.
Yeah. Are you excited about the shot clock? Are y'all going to take advantage of that in your non-area, non-playoff games this year?
So every coach that I've talked to so far is all for it. We got them put in. They actually put it on our athletics page on Facebook. They actually took
Yeah.
a picture. We get to do some stuff a little different in our PE class. So we get 2 hours a week. And so I told him, I said, hey, shot clocks are up. We're going to take 2 hours on Friday and we're going to get after it. We're going to use the shot clock to our advantage.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any shot clock violations on on Friday. Tomorrow's day one, could be completely different.
What are the like as a coach, what to you will be the you're going to implement this the way the AHSAA is doing it this year, where if both teams agree and it's a non-area, non-playoff game, you can use it. What are the benefits that you think are going to come from using this?
For most of the time, most of the part, the non-area games that we've played the last 2 years and some that we scheduled this year, most teams won't. I don't think it'll affect them as much because a lot of teams, especially 7A, is really fast paced.
Yeah.
Get up, run and gun, get up and down the court. Transition offense, transition defense. Where you get into it is like the smaller schools that aren't aren't deep on the bench. They may have like 6 or 7 guys,
Yeah.
and they want to try to rest on offense and just kind of hold the ball if they have the lead. And I don't really see us seeing that many of those teams. But to me, I've talked to coaches in Georgia and they love it. They're like, look, it takes a lot of game planning out of it because now you're playing against the shot clock and you got to move. You can't just rest. It's going to speed up the game. We actually went to Lochapoka last summer and played in their shot clock league. And I think we played 4 games or 5 games there, and we only had one shot clock violation. And that was because it was because of me. It wasn't because anything the guys did. I was trying to get them into a certain look, and it ran out of time, and that was on me. So as long as the coach is aware that, hey, you got to keep things going, you'll be a lot better off.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Why do you foresee this being a long-term thing in the future after this year? Like, I don't know what the HSAA's plans are, but it seems like they're probably going to collect some sort of data or something this year and maybe make a determination for the future at some point.
I think they're going to collect data from this year to see how well it went. It may be a 2-year process before you see it get into area play and the championship tournament play. Honestly, just talking to the coaches in Georgia, some coaches from Tennessee, they won't come coaching Alabama until it is in full effect. Like
Wow.
they're that dead set on, hey, it's better for the sport. And the way I look at it, I mean, I could be completely wrong. Other coaches may not think this, but as a high school coach, yeah, our job is to win games, but it's also to prepare some of these kids that you have that have the ability to go to the next level.
Yeah.
And if they get to campus day one, not knowing how to play on a shot clock, how are we benefiting those kids? Because they're
Yeah.
getting their freshman year, they may be great. They may be good enough to start their freshman year, but they've never played on a shot clock. So now that coach is having to tell them, hey, this is what we have to do now because there's a shot clock.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is my non-coach opinion is like to me without a shot clock, and I saw it in like when I was in high school at Hewitt Trustville, our team was really really good. Um, Jeremiah Millington was running point. He now coaches over at Leeds High School. We had Justin Tubbs was in my graduating class. He went straight to Alabama, ultimately transferred to East Tennessee State. He can still jump out of the gym at age 36, by the way. And but we would see teams. I'm not going to name teams because maybe the memory's a little foggy, but I've got a good idea of which team it was. But we would see them just absolutely sit on the ball, and it would be a boys' high school basketball game. And if you got to 18, 20 points, you were probably going to win the game. And that's insane. And it's boring and it's lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's not teaching you how to execute. That's teaching you to take a lazy way. And this is just me. And I think teaching players how to actually run, excuse me, how to run an effective offense, how to defend an offense that's, having to speed up a little bit. To me, that's more of what it's about, that you're actually having to teach more and to actually execute what you've learned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you because I'll never forget this game. I was, I believe, a junior in high school. We were playing Central Tuscaloosa. Central Tuscaloosa is back then, back in the 90s. I don't know what they are now. So, I mean, hopefully nobody's listening from Central Tuscaloosa, but they were big. If they got up, if they were up on, 30, 40 points, not up on a team, but if they got to 30 or 40 points and the other team was, 10 points down, they're sitting on the ball. And
Yeah.
to me, that's not basketball. I mean, you watch college games, and I'm not saying a 100-point game every night is what it should be, but a 70, 80-point game, that range, that's what you're looking for. I mean, because it's
Yeah.
fast paced. I always tell my players, I said, look, defense wins championships, offense puts butts in the seats. Well, with the shot clock, you're going to put butts in the seats because now you're having to play a lot faster.
Yep. That's exactly right. I wish we could have done this a long time ago, but history is what it is. I at least got to grow up in an era when I was in high school where, up here in the Birmingham area, like I said, being at Hewitt Trustful, our school was in the regionals every year at Jacksonville State, pretty much that I was in high school. And it would always end in Jacksonville State because Huffman would be in the way. And that's when they had Demetrius Jemison, Stanley Robinson was on those teams that went to
Mm-hmm.
UConn, rest in peace. And I told this to Tyler too. Andre Smith that played left tackle at Alabama, he would come out off the bench on those teams and he'd set a pick every now and then. And wow,
Yeah,
just
you felt it.
wow. Yeah, you felt it in the stands. That dude, I mean, that dude was, man, like seeing him come out on a basketball court is like a different kind of intimidation than seeing him on a high school football field. Like everybody's kind of wearing pads, everybody looks a little bigger than they actually are. You stick him in a tank top and shorts on the basketball court and you're like, I'm not going in the paint at all tonight. I'm staying out here. I'm just going to shoot it from 30 and hope for the best.
I think that's what a lot of teams are thinking right now with Hoover, with the big kid number 55. You see him
Yes.
walk on the court, you're like, oh, and
He's,
big
I
6'8",
forget his, I forget his name. Ah, I
My
was
me
talking.
too. But I
I
love
forget it, but
watching him play. I mean, but you see him walk on the court, you're like, I just hope I can outrun him to the paint, so that way I can get a layup.
yeah, because I mean, he has that like he's one of those kids too that like what he's about to be a senior, I guess,
He is a
and
senior. I think he
he's a
is a senior.
senior now. And I look at him and I'm like, you look like you've been in the league for like 10 years. Like he has like
Yeah.
he looks older than he is, not just height, not just weight, but he just has that look like he's a grown man.
Yeah.
Man,
He looks like he should be playing at the Y with the lunch bunch already because he looks like a grown man.
that he does. So do you have a call? I mean, you mentioned Troy, you mentioned Coach Pearl. Do you have a college team you kind of pull for or keep an eye on?
I do like Auburn basketball. Now I will say
Okay.
this: if Bruce Pearl leaves Auburn basketball, wherever he goes, I'm gonna be a fan. But Coach Cross has a fan for life. It's funny because Coach Cordero, who's one of his assistant coaches down there, we literally talk every week. He'll text me on a Monday, "Hey Coach, how's it going? Season starting yet? Send me a
Mhm.
schedule." He's even invited me just to go sit down and talk shop in their offices. And I told my wife, I said, don't be surprised if I take a day off and I go down there just to go hang out at Troy. And she goes, well, if you go to Monarca's, I'm gonna be mad because that's our spot when we go to
That's
Troy.
spot.
And that's probably the best Mexican restaurant in the state of Alabama. So,
Ooh.
but those two I do pull for. They make fun of me here in my family because I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. So
Okay.
I Cornhuskers in football. I keep up with them. I watch Auburn football. We have a love hate relationship because that was the first college football game I've ever been to. I was
Yeah.
6 years old when I went. Then my stepdad, he's an Alabama fan, so we'd get Alabama tickets. And then my wife and I, my wife got her undergrad at Troy. I got
Okay.
two masters from Troy. So like we'd go down there and watch games. So like Troy's kind of got my heart because I'm an alumni.
Yeah.
But I'll wear it. I've got a Texas Longhorn hat that my wife bought me from when she went to Dallas, Texas. So I'm not a diehard anything fan. I just like watching
Yeah.
sports now.
Yeah. How about a pro team? Do you pay much attention to the NBA?
I do when it gets to the playoff time. Regular
Yeah.
season, it's like I told Cameron Lewis because we were talking about the NBA one day, and he's like, "I know you gotta like the Lakers." I was like, "Why do I have to like the Lakers?" He goes, "Well, LeBron." I said, "I'll tell you the only two players that I liked, or three. I'll take that back. Three players that I liked that played for the Lakers: Magic,
Mm-hmm.
Kobe, and Robert
Yep.
Horry. Those are the three that I like that played for the Lakers. When Phil Jackson left the Bulls and went to the Lakers, I was mad because growing up, I was a Bulls fan. I stayed a Bulls fan even when Jordan left for a while before he came back. I stayed a Bulls fan. I even had the old starter jacket, the Chicago Bulls starter jacket, the puffy one.
Ooh, man, those were
And I heard
fire back in the day.
they're making a comeback. So if they make a comeback, I'm buying a Chicago Bulls one just for nostalgia.
Oh, the comeback is there, man. Hey, everything, it's cyclical. Everything comes back around, and those starter jackets are, I guess, they're in again. I don't know what
Yep.
the terms are that the kids use now, but I'll just say in. But they are, I see them. I get all the texts from that 47 brand because
Yep.
I've got about, I don't know, 8 billion hats in my closet. And I get those texts, and every now and then they're like, "Hey, it's basketball season. Starter jackets are in. They're back. They're back. You need to get you one.
I'm gonna have to get one. I might wear it on the sideline too, just because.
That'd be good. That would be good. That'd be interesting. You wear a
Yeah,
Bulls one at a Prattville game.
just some throwback. Just like, hey, we're throwing it
Yeah,
back to the '90s. Let's see what happens.
that's awesome, man. I miss that era of. I don't know. I was young during it, but I miss that era of mid to late '90s, early 2000s NBA. Like I struggle kind of explaining to non NBA fans, like in my family or friends, that are like, well, they just don't play any defense at all, and I'm like, that's sure. At times, there are certain teams that just you can tell. But at the same time, the games are longer. The shot clock is 11 seconds shorter than it is in college and in high school.
Mm-hmm.
They're much more efficient shooters. You can play great defense and they're still going to knock one down in your face. There is defense happening there. You've just got to actually sit down and really watch the game. Stay off the phone and keep your eyes on the TV and really watch what's happening. And I love it. I mean, like I told you, I'm a big Celtics fan. Here pretty soon, right at the start of the season this year, I'll get my NBA trip out of the way early this year. Last couple of years, I've gone to Atlanta when the Celtics are there, and last year it was in like March. They played them twice in a week in March, and I was mad because I couldn't go to both, and they were like scrunched right there together. And then this year they're playing there November 4th, and I don't think I might have, if I missed it, I missed it, but I don't see them back on at Atlanta the entire season. So
Oh wow!
yeah, so I'll get like the I don't know
Now
eighth, 10th game of the year, and then that's it.
I do like the Celtics, so I'll give you that.
Yeah,
Um, what got me with the Celtics was Larry Bird. Loved the way he would shoot. I do watch the Hawks because when I
yeah.
was in the Navy Reserves, my unit was out of Atlanta, and they would give us free tickets all the time.
Wow.
If we had a drill weekend and they were there, we'd go watch the Hawks play. I actually had a foreign exchange student from Spain, and she was a big basketball nut. They wouldn't let her play at Edgewood just because there was some type of issue with being a foreign exchange student, which kind of made me mad because she could literally, if I had her and Lindsay on the court together, it would be like a dynamic duo added in our two guard, Jalen Strength. Like, I don't think I would have lost a game.
Wow.
That's how good she was. But she loved Clay Thompson. And so we
Okay.
just happened for Christmas got her Golden State Atlanta Hawks tickets. So me and my daughter Ella and her went. And of course, my wife takes our youngest daughter Lincoln to Target to go shopping while we're at the game, which I'm fine with because I sat there. We watched the whole game. The
Mm-hmm.
Hawks won, so I got to rub it in their face because Trey Young is like unbelievable. And
Yeah.
so we're sitting there watching, and the Hawks had a redheaded kid, and they traded him. And when I saw that they traded him, one of my senior chiefs is still living in Atlanta. I texted him. I said, "Why in the world would they get rid of the one kid that could balance Trey Young, sit in the corner and knock down a three?" He goes,
Yeah.
It's all about money."
Yep. That's the truth. I'm trying to remember. I did my I I do fantasy football with my friends, but like I said, I'm like it's coming around now, like because I'm a big Alabama fan, and what Nate Oates has done and is doing in Tuscaloosa is unbelievable.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid to say it. I've said it publicly for years. Um, I said it at the height of Nick Saban's crazy success as the football coach. I said, no, this is outlandish. I get it, but I meant it. I said I would give up the next five football national championships at Alabama for one in basketball. I
Oh
think I
yeah.
meant. I think at first I might have even said a Final Four appearance, which they have now, and people were like, "You're crazy. That's insane." What like yeah, and I was like, "It is what it is. I'm a basketball guy. What do you expect?" And
Yeah.
now now we got football's got two losses before November for the first time since 2007, and people are like, well, at least basketball's number one," and I'm like, "So now you agree with me?" Like
Now they agree with you. What was
I
funny
said,
is my my daughter texted me last night after the Auburn game. She goes, "When is the first basketball game?" And I said, "Not soon enough. Not soon enough."
not soon enough. I was pulling it up because so what I was getting at, me and my friends, we do fantasy football every year, and every year except this one, I ask them, "Do y'all want to do a fantasy basketball group?" And crickets. I get nothing. And so I always just join one on ESPN, and I just join some league where I don't know anybody, but I'll pay attention to it. because I love it, and I do have Trey Young on that team. As long as he's healthy, and now Deontay Murray left.
Yep.
Where did he go to? New Orleans, I
I think he
think.
went to New Orleans.
To New Orleans. So long as Trey's fully healthy, and he's going to have to pick up some scoring again now with Murray gone. They got that number one pick. I don't know his name. That was a weird weak draft this year, but
Yeah.
I'm expecting a really big year from him, and so I got him on the team. I don't know that I didn't get any Celtics, and he's my only Hawk, but it is what it is. I like to get those guys that I like to get a good 6'5", 6'6" type guy who does a little bit of a lot,
Mm-hmm.
just to fill those stat sheets. Like I don't want just Rudy Gobert or something who, yeah, he's going to get me 14 rebounds and 2 block shots, but he doesn't do anything else. Like,
Yeah.
give me a guy like Austin Reeves from the Lakers that, he might score 10, but he's going to get 8 rebounds and dish 7 assists and get 2 steals. Like, give me that 5-tool basketball player. That's the guy I love.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. Man, I love it. Dang, I can't get enough basketball. I love basketball so much. I got to do more. I've done so many of these that are football, and now that weather's cold, it's basketball season. I got to do a ton of
Time to move
these
inside.
basketball.
It's
Yeah,
time to move inside.
it is time to move inside onto that hardwood, and I got to do a lot more of these basketball wise. I
I'm
can't
just
talk basketball enough.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning when I walk in the gym because they just re-waxed the hardwood.
I saw that.
So I'll like that smell. Like when I walk in, everybody's like, "Oh, it stinks." I love it. I'm like, it is the best smell because it's new, and of course, we don't get to play our freshmen will play their first game on that floor, November 8th, versus John Carroll, who happens to be coached by one of my former college coaches. But I won't be there for that because we're going to Lamp in Montgomery because one of my former teammates, Rob McGahee, coaches at Lamp. They had some teams drop, and Hopeful, they had to reschedule the last game that we were going to play on the 23rd of January.
Yeah.
Coach Parker like, Coach, we can't find a date, so we're just going to have to not play that game this year. And I was like, oh. But then Rob texted me, and I was like, okay, good. We're going to play 30 games.
Yeah.
And we get to go to Lamp, play. I was playing Greg Parker, who's a friend of mine. Now I'm playing a former teammate. So I was like, hey, it's an even trade off.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I look forward to following along this fall, winter, I guess winter sport, but I look forward to following you guys now that you're up in 7A, and wish you guys a lot of luck, and hopefully when y'all get up this way, because let's see, probably when y'all get up to like Thompson, maybe Hillcrest, we'll see.
Yeah.
I gotta make my way out to some basketball this winter for
hey,
sure.
Well, I put you on the list. Anytime you want to come down to Prattville High School, come watch a game.
Love it, love it. Well, I appreciate you, Coach.
I appreciate you too.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Good to meet you, and love talking basketball. We'll have to talk again soon.
Sounds good.
Appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.